Hello adventurers and welcome to Dice Sagas. I'm Christian. This battle report is going to be a Warcry battle report, Sylvaneth versus Skaven. We hope you enjoy it. Tears of the Everqueen. Silence had fallen among the edges of the Mirrorwood glade. No more could the spirits of those who dwelt there be heard. Concerned, Malathair Weavesong sent forth his trusted advisor, Branchwith Shadach, silent reaper of the Twisted Gardens, to understand the circumstances of this threat. A growing fear began to gnaw at the roots of his awareness, like thousands of claws scraping at his thoughts. He could feel the aches and pains of the pocket realm, and knew a darkness was gathering, an entity not quite yet ready to reveal itself.
My time is almost here. Yes. I feel the walls of reality thinning. The eternal gnaw of the roots ever persisting. My children will spill forth for the great horned one. Yes. I will squeak talk to you, Skitaknar Norclaw.
Skitaknar Norclaw, callous kin-eater of the concealed Undercity, dropped to the floor in pain as the great deceiver's words entered into his skull.
Catch tree things again. More soul parts needed.
Screeching, the voice faded, and the assassin slowly stood once more to his feet, knowing what his lord desired once more.
A drop will work again. The tree things a guild fight shall be suffer.
Skitaknar said with a gleam in his eye. Having harassed the edge of the forest and drawn out the Sylvaneth before, he was certain the same tactic would work again.
Click gather like glows. Now tree things come. We kill the tree things and take their light glows too.
Virid entered the clearing, surveying his surroundings.
How can this be?
Treekin bodies laid unceremoniously around, their soul pods still there, but barely glowing.
Whomever has done this shall pay dearly,
he said with barely contained rage. His companions searched for any sign or trace of the trespassers, then looked towards the heavens as drops of rain began to fall, as if the Everqueen herself began to weep at the sight of such wanton destruction. The ambush was sprung, the shadows concealing the Skaven were lifted, and a bulking Stormfiend barreled forward towards the fading soulpod. Now stood near the fallen Sylvaneth, it bellowed a challenge, roaring with uncontrolled fury, weapons poised. As soon as the Skaven were unveiled, Virid dashed to the fallen Sylvaneth, avoiding shots from the Stormfiend to stand guard over the soulpod.
foul creatures, your end is nigh.
Quick scurry to the light glows. Collect for the master. Yes.
Said the clan rats, clearly eager and overconfident from their last engagements. No sooner had the clan rat arrived, an inexplicable mist appeared, bewildering the clan rat.
Eek.
You trespass our borders, foul beast. Your end will come swiftly, said the tree revenant. Skitaknar Norclaw sprinted forward, hurling throwing stars, cackling as he went.
You will make a great offering.
With such deft skill, the throwing stars thudded into Virid's bark. In tandem, the Stormfiend opened fire, roaring as wildfire poured over the Kurnoth Hunter. Virid fell to one knee, grunting in pain. While distracted, Skitaknar scurried and plucked the soul pod from the fallen treekin. With the ambush in full motion, more Skaven came pouring forth. However, the Sylvaneth were not so easily deceived, and were watching the scenes unfold from a distance. Now knowing the source of the silence, they moved in to intercept. Virid launched himself at the Stormfiend, foliage and soil shifting below his tread. He slammed into the foe with his shoulder, armor shattering from the impact. With a slight distance now between them, Virid swung his leaf-like blade, slashing and carving into the beast's flesh. The Stormfiend raising its arms in defense instinctively. Branchwitch Shadach entered the clearing. Seeing the foul assassin, shadows seemingly clinging to its form, she knew what was needed and hurled forth a swarm of spites. They impacted the assassin, plucking and stabbing, causing multiple lacerations. However, it didn't seem to slow the assassin down. Shadach knew more must be done. She ordered her warband to secure the soul pods at all costs and raised a finger at the Stormfiend. And with that order, an arrow flew through the air, cutting through any foliage that may have fallen from the canopy. The arrow thudded into the Stormfiend's shoulder, again roaring in pain, blood pouring from multiple wounds.
Stupid tree things! Stupid spirit things!
Knowing failure wouldn't be tolerated, Skitaknar presented the soul pod within his paw and pondered.
Eat no like glow.
Now wounded, his pondering became action. He began gnawing at the soul pod. A small piece broke away and it was devoured. His wounds beginning to heal, he laughed wickedly.
What a treat! Yes, tastes so sweet, yes, and look-see.
With his wounds now healed, he departed and climbed the tree, leaping from a great height onto the Kurnoth Hunter. His clawed weapons impaling the great Kurnoth Hunter, bark and sap pouring to the ground. Virid swayed from side to side, shaking loose the vermin on his back. He turned to trample the Skaven, but Skitaknar was too nimble and avoided certain death. With the rain streaming down, its healing properties began to take effect. Across the Mirrorwood glade, the wounds on the combatants began to heal. Most noticeably, the Stormfiend's lacerations were gone. Restored with a renewed vigour, it launched itself against the Kurnoth Hunter. Heavy, blundering blows pounded Virid's defence, branches and bark scattering into the air. Falling to one knee, Virid cried out in agony. From martial memory, the Tree Revenant displayed elegant grace with its blade, parrying and thrusting. The Clamrat, chittering in rapid movements, shielded itself from the blows, and managed to thrust its rusted weapon when the opportune moment showed itself, neither opponent gaining ground. With the incoming Rat Ogre bearing down upon another soul pod, Glith charged headlong. Blade raised, he swung the weapon in a mighty arc, but the Rat Ogre shrugged off the blows and began its savage assault. With its fearsome fists, it pounded into the bark. Having gained the momentum, it continued the assault. Pinning the Kurnoth Hunter to the ground, the Rat Ogre began to gnaw at Glith's face, streams of sap pouring from the gaping wounds. Another form of mist materialized near the embattled Clamrat. Seeing an opportune moment, the Tree Revenant moved in and knelt beside the fallen Treekin. "I'm sorry, youngling." Grasping the soul pod within his grip, he pulled the soul pod from the fallen Treekin and began to weep. Using her scythe, Branchwitch Shadach claimed the soul pod from the slain Treekin. This duty was nothing short of a necessity as a druid of the Twisted Gardens. This was a duty that Shadach did with honour and pride, the once useful soul long gone as her obligation demanded. Skitaknar once again scampered up the tree. Moving swiftly, he leapt with his claw-like daggers drenched with sap, eyes glinting with deadly intent. Virid turned to face the oncoming danger, but it was too late. Skitaknar landed on his shoulders and drove his deadly weapons into Virid's skull. The green gentle glow ebbed and flowed, and faded, his soul pod dimming. Skitaknar laughed.
Mine, I claim this kill for the Great Horned One.
Seeing his comrade fall, the Tree Revenant ran and charged into the Storm Fiend, but to no avail, and was swatted aside dismissively by the mechanical manufactured arms of the Storm Fiend. The tears of Gairan continued to fall, healing what it could. No matter the source, life was life. The embattled Kurnoth began to heal, open bark mending and sealing wounds. Turning, he lifted his root-like foot and trampled the giant rat, gnawing at his feet. Sprinting, the Tree Revenant slid and came to a halt, preparing for the oncoming assault. However, one of the clan rats seemed less interested in the conflict and disengaged to continue its path. Knowing the source, he turned, but the remaining clan rats assaulted with explosive speed and intent, taking the Tree Revenant off guard. Memory drifted back to the forefront, and instinctively he parried and thrusted his blade into the clan rat, both combatants equally matched. Standing back up with the retrieved soul pod, the Tree Revenant directed his rage onto the clan rat, piercing the vermin from behind. The clan rat squirmed for a few seconds, then collapsed to the ground with a thud. Looking to aid the Kurnoth Hunter and recover the slain Treekin soul pod, the Tree Revenant hurled itself against the Rat Ogre, slashing with such swiftness that the Rat Ogre roared back in frustration. In retaliation, the Rat Ogre gripped the head of his adversary and lifted him into the air. Shaking and swinging wildly, the Tree Revenant attempted to free itself, but to no avail. With one sudden motion, the Rat Ogre squeezed its grip, and the flailing Revenant fell motionless. Seeing the numbers of the Skaven and the losses her warband had suffered, Branchwood Shaddich wailed and gave the order to retreat. She knew the losses she had suffered was grave, and with the fall of Virid, she would not stop until she had recovered the soul pod. Now knowing the threat and culprit, she knew Malathair would need this information. The full reason was still unclear. However, seeing the Skaven gnaw at their soul pods only heightened the threat and importance of their mission to return with grave tidings.
Trap worked, yes. Master will be pleased.
Skitaknor said with glee.
More soul pods we have. When not chewed, they give strength power. Addictive, yes, but not as precious as warpstone, no.
With the trap and bait having worked, Skitaknor had ample soul pods to return with. However, this newfound lust for gnawing on the soul pods, it would only be a matter of time before they returned to the Mirrorwood Glade, and in greater numbers. Thank you for viewing our video. If you like the content, please like and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell icon too to be notified of future content. We've also got links to Facebook and Instagram in the links below. We've also started a Patreon. It's by no means an obligation, however, if you'd like to support the channel, please obviously check that out. It's down below in the description too. I'd like to thank you again for viewing our content. Take care and let the dice tell the story.